it's got to be a priority. We've got to work on it every day. And working with the tribe is critically important because we don't want to put it on that mountain preserve. We don't want to destroy neighborhoods that already exist with the 202 alignment. So that leaves the alternative is with the on the Native American community. And what does that take? I have experience working for John McCain, who was chairman of the Indian Affairs Committee for a number of years, and have actually visited all of the Indian tribes in the state of Arizona. I understand how to work with Indian leaders in Native American communities, and what it takes is leader-to-leader relationships. It takes the mayor to sit down with the governor and start the negotiations, and it's a long, difficult process, and you have to have the patience, and you have to have the focus to be able to do that and work on it, and literally be on the phone talking with them on a regular basis, a weekly or a daily basis if necessary, and have those face-to-face meetings as well to make sure that you are making progress, because the progress will come in time. You know, the 7 generations and is not something that is small to a Native American leader, because they're looking at the 7 generations ahead and 7 generations before. So you've got to make sure that while it seems like a slow process to a businessman, it is a important process for a Native American leader. You have to understand and respect the way that that whole culture operates, and you've got to be able to continue to do that on a daily basis. And my commitment is to get it done. And it's for the people of Ahwatukee, so that there's an alternative that reduces traffic on the 10 going into town. But it also is important to the people in Levine, who we need to get some determination, some finality on where that freeway is going to go on the west side.
And ensuring that the right decision was made on the Loop 202, standing up to incredible pressure from many East Valley leaders that just wanted to jam it through the MAG process. Folks on the other side of the mountain that just said they don't care about the impact on the mountain or on our community here in Ahwatukee Foothills. My job was to make the case, first and foremost, to the people of Ahwatukee Foothills about tribal sovereignty, that this is not a decision that can just be made. It takes time, it takes relationships, it takes diplomacy, and to do it well to get the job done. And my message was always, let's do it right, not quickly, because whatever decision is made, our kids are going to live with. And of course, then I also had to make the case to the East Valley leaders that it's, you know, if we were to do it the way that they wanted, it would end up inevitably in litigation that would last forever. Environmental groups bring litigation when the decision was made to plow through South Mountain that would be self-defeating, and also to educate the folks in Gila River. I spent a lot of time with the folks, the leadership of the Gila River community, letting them know that we're married to each other. Ahwatukee and Foothills is not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. We need to make these decisions together. We're a team, and we have to make the best decision that's in all of our best interests. And obviously, you can't tell them, they have to make their own decision, but ultimately I did believe that they would come up with a decision just like our friend Salt River Pima did years ago when they were faced with the very same facts, that in the long-term best interest of everyone, from an economic development perspective for our friends in the Gila River community, from an environmental perspective, not plowing through South Mountain, ultimately through a transportation perspective, it's not fair to the people of this community that we would be essentially an 18-wheel truck bypass. If we were to make that planning decision today, we certainly wouldn't put it on Pecos Road. That was my job. I did it well, and as a result, I think this thing is going to be heading in the right direction. Overall, our jobs plan, our jobs action plan, our small business plans, you know, it's all on the website. But the first thing, and probably the most important thing, is I'm going to have a local procurement advantage, meaning that if you're a local business and you are trying to get business with the city, that's the #1 thing we can do in the short run to support local people and local business. Is to ensure that they have an appropriate advantage in that process, so that when they're competing with out-of-state businesses that are coming in at near the same cost, that we support our local business. So I would say that's the number one thing that we can do in the short run to support. But then to be an advocate for this community, as I did. The reason why I got elected 3 times by the folks in Ahwatukee Foothills, including the last time with 86% of the vote, is obviously the reason why during the first election I won this area overwhelmingly. They know me, they trust me, they know I'm going to fight for appropriate police and fire services, just like I did ensure that this area was well taken care of in that regard. They know that I'm going to fight for the quality of life and not allow like the 620 to be dotted with homes up and down the mountain, that we're going to fight for open space and save and preserve land, because the lifestyle in this, the reason what draws people to this area is education, small business, and that very active lifestyle. It's what makes Ahwatukee Foothills unique, not just in the city of Phoenix, but I would argue the Valley of the Sun. So we need to keep making the case as to why Ahwatukee Foothills is a special place, and ensure that the folks here are not forgotten at City Hall. And they know if I'm elected mayor, I love Ahwatukee Foothills. I loved it when I represented. It will not be a forgotten area. In fact, it will be a primary area during my time as mayor.
Reduce regulation. We got to reduce permits, red tape. We have to reduce permit fees so that small businesses can start and grow without government being an impediment to that. We have a plan that Councilman DeCiccio and I and 3 other councilmen brought forward last week on same-day permitting to do self-certification through the whole process of construction especially for small businesses, that will allow them to work on their timetable as opposed to the city's timetable. It is something that we're going to do on day 1, and that's going to allow small businesses then, instead of it taking a year to get open and get their product to market on their timeline as opposed to the city's timeline, take the inspectors out of the way. And the horror stories that everybody hears about that, because the inspectors that really have the liability are the people who are building the project. And so those builders and engineers and professionals are going to be a certified company. They're going to be able to come in and get their permit on the same day, and then they're going to be able to work on their timeline as opposed to the cities. That's going to make a huge difference and allow for economic opportunity for those small businesses who want to start and grow their businesses. The other thing, Greg talks a good game about Ahwatukee, and there's no question. I've spent a lot of time out here during the last year myself. We've had a number of town hall meetings. I have been here on a regular basis, and it is a critically important part of our community that oftentimes gets forgotten. And we have to make sure that we maintain a working relationship, a constant conversation with people in Ahwatukee to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to make this a great part of the city, which it already is. One of the things we can do that will add, I think, add revenue to the whole transportation system is having a better regional approach. And that's sort of a global answer to a very narrow question that you asked. But we have to look for efficiencies everywhere we can, because if we can find those efficiencies, then we can use the money that we're saving to increase service. And that's what's important that we have to look at. We have to look at the opportunities to find efficiencies everywhere we can, so that then we can improve the systems that are working well, and use data to drive this, and so that we're actually putting our transit where it is working and where it can work and serve the most people in the best way. And so driving money out to the programs here will be important to do, but we've got to find the savings in the system, because there's just not more money. And I don't think we should increase taxes, increase fees to do that. I think there's enough money in the system. So if we have a regional approach, even though everybody says, well, we got to remember that Phoenix has put our own money in, and we've got to do all this, and we've got to protect our own money, we can still find the efficiencies by having a regional approach to transit and and that way we can save the money that we've already put into the system and use that money specifically to attack local problems.
All right, well, so this is another area where I have a long history. I'm a passionate Alex supporter. Of course, Alex was the first local explorer system in the entire city of Phoenix. In fact, it was because it was so successful here in Ahwatukee Foothills. Who would have thought that being a teenager and riding the bus would be a cool thing and give those kids that independence? It was an innovative idea when it went into place. It was a huge success here in Ahwatukee Foothills, and it was therefore a model for other public transportation in other neighborhoods across the city. Actually worked well best in Ahwatukee because of the kind of the unique geography that is here. And I fought for Alex during the time that I was on council with the budget situation, because it was so important to get those, anybody who had a stereotype about who's a public transportation rider, those stereotypes got blown up when it came to something like Alex, and you had a lot of seniors who utilized it for independence, and so many young people utilized it for independence. It's a really special thing, and it deserves a leader who understands it, who's been there, done that, and who will continue to fight, not only for neighborhood circulators, as important a part of our public transportation system as anything else. Getting those young people, either who may be of driving age or not quite at driving age, it saves parents so much from having to haul their kids around. It gets young people used to and not having negative stereotypes about public transportation. It's a win for everyone, and the people reading this can know that they obviously, I know the details of Alex. I love it, and I'll be an advocate for it moving forward.
Les, do you have anything to add to that?
I think we're both in agreement on that issue. But the local circulators don't necessarily work everywhere. So we can't just have the one-size-fits-all kind of process, and we have to make sure that we're using transportation in our transit system in unique ways, so that we don't just we have the same system that we have in Ahwatukee in North Phoenix that doesn't get the same kind of ridership, but we have to have it up there because we have it down here. Let's use the data that actually drives that to afford cost savings in the system as well, so that we're using it where it works, and it works here. I've worked on a lot of different projects over the years, and bringing people together. And one that I'm very proud of is the work that we did on TGen to bring people together, to make sure that I worked for TGen for 9 years and bringing people together. But I think that, and we did the strategic work to help develop TGen. I've worked for them over the years for the entire time TGen's been around, to make sure that we're attacking the problems, to bring people together, to partner. TGen's model is that everything is done through a partnership that brings people together. The other thing that I worked on that I'm very proud of is First Things First. And there's been some controversy. Greg's trying to suggest a bunch of different things on First Things First, but when Nadine and Eddie Basha started the First Things First proposal, they came to us and asked us to help craft First Things First, bring people together. And we did that. We developed a program. We went out and sold it to the public. The public voted for an increase in cigarette taxes to pay for early childhood education. And then we worked through that process to bring people together. One of the criticisms was that Greg has said that I'm for taking that money and giving it to the general fund. When the state was in a budget crisis 2 years ago, and I was asked specifically at a debate by Peggy Neely, would I have done that at the time? I said I would have suggested that they loan the money to the state to help pay for education and some of the important things that were being cut by the state legislature. That's bringing people together. That's helping understand how to work throughout the process. Today, the fund is there, it is secure, and the goal now should be bringing people together to access that money, so that we can show that Phoenix programs need that kind of money. Bring people together, work with first things first, to make sure that we're funding early childhood education where it's needed to go most, and I think that's in inner city Phoenix. So bringing people together is a hallmark of my campaign. I've worked with Democrats, independents, vegetarians, libertarians, and to bring people together on a variety of issues.
Yeah, and so a couple of issues that Mr. Gullett mentioned. On the strategic end, people who even reading this very paper, do an archive search, you'll see that I was the leader on the city council on bringing teaching. We had to make a tough decision about land use, funding it. Mr. Gullett actually deserves credit. He was hired in a lobbyist capacity. He has done an outstanding job as the paid lobbyist for TGen.
I was actually not hired as a lobbyist to work for teaching.
Well, you've always been a lobbyist for teaching. You should be proud of that, and you've done a very good job in that.
It's just not true.
You're not the lobbyist for TGen?
I wasn't hired to be the lobbyist for teaching.
All right, well, in a paid capacity, whatever the title on it, paid capacity for TGen. The difference on the early childhood thing, by the way, is I'd fight for early childhood education fund. I'm not going to cut deals with the legislature, loan money that may or may not ever come back. I'm going to fight for kids in that regard. But the specific issue is when we brought people together. This community knows how hard I fought to preserve the slope of South Mountain on the 620. You had to bring together the members of this community. You had to bring together the state land department, who very much wanted to go in different. They wanted homes dotting that entire area. Sometimes it got tense. Sometimes you got to fight. And I was willing to fight to preserve that land. It was the right thing to do for future generations. We had, if you again look at the archives of this publication, you'll see we did a 3-day mediation with the state land department to come up with a win-win, and we did it. And that's as a result of that leadership. That's exactly why the city was able to purchase the slope of South Mountain, and we preserved the slope of that South Mountain so it's not dotted with homes. So Mr. Gullett did too, and I'll do it too. The other thing that I did during my time in law enforcement at the Attorney General's office, the Attorney General asked me to take the lead on the litigation that the Attorney General's office brought against the county regarding Luke Air Force Base. You probably remember Luke Air Force Base was challenged because the county was allowing residential building permits, putting the future of Luke at risk. We needed to come together and get a resolution. And I, working with Don Stapley at the county, was able to come together with a resolution. Governor Brewer's staff did an outstanding job, and Governor Brewer signed on to it. So you had to bring together Terry Goddard, Jan Brewer, literally while they're working against each other on a political campaign, and the county to do the right thing for the future of Luke Air Force Base. We did it. And it was shortly thereafter that the Pentagon announced that Luke would be one of the leading entities for the F-35, the future mission of Luke. Now that's bringing people together. I'm very, very proud of that work.